Elisa Lam. Was her death truly an accident due to her bipolar disorder? In this video, I'm going to run through the channel that I did for her to see, like, if anything new pops up. I knew general information about her, but I didn't do a deep dive before I did my channel because, like I said, I don't want my ego to get in the way of my channel, right? So, just so you know, just want to get that out of the way. But if you don't know who Elisa Lam is, she is a Canadian, or was a Canadian student, who pretty much traveled to the United States to do a tour around the United States. I think it was like the west coast of the United States, and she ended up staying at the Cecil Hotel, which is where her body was found. So I'm going to read a quick excerpt, just giving more information. But on January 26, 2013, Elisa Lam arrived in LA. She had just come by Amtrak train from San Diego and was headed to Santa Cruz as a part of her solo trip around the West Coast. The trip was supposed to be a getaway from her studies at the University of British Columbia and Vancouver, where she was originally from. Now, of course, her parents were weary of her traveling alone, which any parent would be, right? As a compromise, Lam made sure to check in with her parents every day of the trip to let them know she was safe. That's why it struck her parents as unusual when they didn't hear from their daughter on January 31st. I just got the chills. So that was the day she was scheduled to check out of her hotel, which was the Cecil Hotel. So, Lams eventually contacted the LA Police Department. The police searched the premises of the hotel but couldn't find her. So then the police soon realized, the surveillance footage taken from the cameras at the Cecil Hotel on their website. This is where things took a weird turn. Now I would assume everybody has seen that footage of her being in the elevator and it's like the doors open and she keeps peering around the corners. Like, it's weird. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, it's very suspicious. And suspicious in the way of just like her behavior is strange. So, yes. I think this is like one of the last pieces of footage that they have of her. So, in the footage, she can be seen stepping into the elevator and pushing all the floor buttons. She steps in and out of the elevator, poking her head out sideways toward the hotel hallways. In between, she peers out of the elevator another few times before stepping out of the elevator entirely. Okay. So the last minutes of the video, she's standing by the left side of the door, moving her hands in random gestures. Nobody else was captured on the video except for her. So, public reaction to the inexplicable video crossed all the way to Canada and China, where, her family was from. So, yeah, it's just strange. Now, February 19th, 2 weeks after the video was published by authorities, maintenance worker Santiago Lopez found Elisa Lam's dead body floating in one of the hotel's water tanks. Now, Lopez made the discovery after responding to complaints from the hotel patrons about low water pressure and a weird taste, oh god, coming from the tap water. Oh, ew. According to a statement by the chief of Los Angeles Fire Department, the tank in which her body was found had to be drained completely and then cut open from the side to remove her 5'4" frame. Nobody knows how she got in there. They found her floating lifelessly next to some clothes she wore in the surveillance video. Ended up in the hotel's water tank, or who else might have been involved. Hotel staff told authorities that Lam was always seen by herself around the hotel premises. But at least one person did see Lam soon before her death at a nearby shop, eerily named The Last Bookstore. Owner Katie Orphan was among the last to see her alive. So the owner of the shop remembered the college student buying books and music for her family back in Vancouver. So it seemed like she had plans to return home and planned to give her family members, like souvenirs and things. So the autopsy results for this case came out. It only served to ignite more questions. So toxicology report confirmed that Lam had consumed a number of medical drugs, likely to be medication for her bipolar disorder, but there were no indications of alcohol or illegal substances in her body. So after the toxicology report came out, then you have these people, amateur crime junkie people. So they're trying to figure out what happened to her. And, they blamed or pointed the finger to, like, this heavy metal guy, like, musician. But, I looked at his picture, and he don't look like the person that I saw in my vision, but anyway. So, they, I guess, ruled her death as accidental drowning due to her mental illness. But, yeah, I don't know. But, so, here's the breakdown. And, pointed out 3 key observations. Lam took at least 1 antidepressant that day. She had taken second antidepressant and mood stabilizer, but not that day, and had not taken her antipsychotic recently. Okay. These conclusions suggested that Lam, who had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression, may have not been taking her medications properly. So, it is an important finding to note, given that the use of antidepressants to treat bipolar disorder can risk inducing manic side effects. If done without caution, some sleuths have understandably latched onto this detail and suggested it was likely explanation behind her strange behavior. So the hotel manager, Amy Price's statements in the court strongly support this theory. During Lam's stay at the Cecil Hotel, now, Price said that Lam was originally booked in a hostel-style shared room with others. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. However, complaints of odd behavior from Lam's roommates forced Lam to be moved to a private room by herself. But even if Elisa Lam had been suffering from mental health issues, how did she end up dead? Furthermore, how did she end up in the hotel water tank? So the autopsy did not show any foul play from the evidence that was processed, but the coroner's office noted that they were unable to do full examination because they could not examine the blood from her decomposing body. So David and Ina Lam filed a wrongful death suit against Cecil Hotel several months after the death of their daughter. The attorney stated that the hotel had a duty to inspect and seek out hazards in the hotel that presented an unreasonable risk of danger to her and other hotel guests. So, obviously, the hotel fought back against it. So. The thing is, what's really strange about this case, the water tank, way to lift it open, hundreds of pounds. Not a single person by themselves could do that. So that's why people are like, what is going on here? How did she get in the water tank? So someone asked me to do this video, and I was like, okay, bet. So I did a channel for her to see if I could come up with anything. Now, I have a page and a half of notes, and I did some drawings. The way spirit communicates to me is through, symbols and stuff. And sometimes the symbols don't make sense, so I have to draw them out so I can go back with a fresh mind and see if I can figure it out. And so some of these things are just that. They're symbols. So, and they're kind of strange in the way of, how do you connect so and so. But the thing is, spirit uses symbols for each medium, right? Like, they tailor the symbols for the medium because the medium either has some kind of experience or knows what they mean specifically to them. So that's why they use what they use, even if they're really weird. But so, one of the first things I heard was she was in contact with somebody who claimed to be something that they're not. So I put catfish, right? So that could mean several things. That could mean, A, they didn't look the way they presented in their photos, kind of like if you ever are on a dating app and then you meet the person and you're like, what the fuck, you don't look like your photos. It didn't feel like that. It felt more of personality. They were fronting and, you know, they were pretending to be a nice person when they were not. Anyway, so I got secret meeting with who she thought was a mutual lover or somebody, mutual friend. It could be a friend, could be a lover. And I heard don't let anyone know. It was weird. I don't know. So that person had negative intentions from the very start, not an accident. So it's very important to note, right? Because I just read in the thing that autopsy, they couldn't do a full autopsy report. Which, you know, and my question is, how can you rule something as accidental when you don't have all the facts? They didn't do a full report just because the body was compromised, which sometimes, you know, when a body is compromised, you can only do so much. So that's why I don't know if I would have ruled it an accident. Maybe I would have, you know, ruled it as inconclusive. But clairaudiently, I heard watched. Now, whether someone was watching her or she felt watched, that is up into interpretation. And that's another thing with these symbols and messages I received. It's about interpretation and how they are being interpreted. Wow. Sorry for that stroke. And how they are being interpreted. So, you know, I'm trying to go through this list without making any assumptions. I'm just trying to lay out what I got, what it could mean, all the possibilities, because like I said, some of these have multiple meanings. Blood. Now, I didn't read the article about her before I did this. So they pointed out the blood, and there's no blood to be found, and that's what I found interesting. I also got cover up. Now, the way in which I got that was through symbolism. Alright, and I'll show you what I drew. And again, my symbols are going to be like, what the heck is going on? Let's see. So you see this thing here? This. Cover up. Why am I saying cover up? Again, about interpretation here. So, specifically what I saw red, green, blue, like the balls in a ball pit, right? Covering this, you know, land area. Almost looks like a little island. And they're covering up the crack that splits up in the middle of this island situation. And it's surrounded by water. Now, as I was going back and looking at these notes, another thought occurred to me. Now, again, interpretation, so I could be wrong. But there's a lot of balls on this chunk of land. So, and there's a dead tree in the back. So if you didn't catch that, that little line situation was a dead tree in the back. My question now is, with this picture, with all those balls, could that represent, it could represent multiple things. If I was seeing the balls of a ball pit, it could represent a child-like mentality. So innocence, playful, but the amount of balls, and I'm sorry I keep saying balls, I don't know what else to call them, could also represent multiple. So I'm wondering if there's multiple cases. Like, I know the Cecil Hotel is notorious for all the deaths that happened there and the ghosts, but I'm wondering if there are multiple cover-ups with all of these colored balls. Sorry. So, saw these tall cliff walls of ice and a boat contemplating to sail through the short cavern tunnel, but being worried that the winds would be too strong and keep the boat sucked in there. So I saw that image or movie play in my head, and I didn't understand what it meant. It kind of you know what it reminds me of? Her in the elevator. So it's like it's contemplating whether or not it's gonna do a certain action, and then being worried that they would be trapped or something. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Do you see like a parallel there? So then I saw a green teardrop crystal come out of a person's pocket, fall into the water, and sink to the bottom. Now, to me, drop. You're dropping something off, or I don't know. It just kind of gave me symbolism to the body of how she was just dropped in the water. It's not that, and that it fell out of a person's pocket tells me that perhaps maybe another person was involved, which would make sense because she would not have been able to get up to the top of the tank, which was 10 feet tall, by herself. She would have either needed a ladder or somebody to help her, and since there were reports that a ladder was not in the area, so how else would she have gotten in there? So to me, it feels like, and again, you can interpret these symbols that I'm reading you however you want. I'm just saying, this is how I'm interpreting it. But it feels like somebody dropped her there. Now, I also got negative spirits take advantage of her bipolar disorder. So the thing is, if you don't know, negative entities can mess with you. If you already have a mental illness, to them, you're fair game, and it's easier to manipulate and, mess with. That hotel is haunted. Period. I know, and I can see the spirits there, and I don't think this event was solely paranormal. I think, honestly, this was a murder, but, I can only speak allegedly because this case has already been quote-unquote solved. Not really, but you know what I mean? Yeah, spirits can play on her bipolar disorder, and if she was already having issues taking her medicine, or what if she wasn't, but they made her that way, or, sometimes people, when they have any kind of mental health and they're taking medication, sometimes they feel really good and are like, you know what, I feel really good today. I don't need my medication. I've seen that happen so many times. And honestly, that occurs very frequently within mental health patients, okay? That is a common occurrence. Them not taking their medication properly because they get overconfident of how they feel, and they feel like they don't need it. But I will say there are negative spirits in that hotel, and I wouldn't be surprised if they took advantage of the situation. Now, I got a name. I'm kind of nervous to share it because I'm not good with names at all when it comes to doing channeling. So, I don't know. I'll say it, but again, I'm not confident in this particular name. And after I did the channel, I did some internet digging, and I didn't see anybody by that name. So, but Caleb. The name Caleb. Now, could it be a person? Maybe. But I feel like it's also possible it could be name of something else. But I don't know. I don't know. That name came to mind. And sometimes I get spirit interference. I am clairaudient, which means I pick up everything around me. So who's to say that it's not another spirit saying the name of something else and it's completely unrelated? Who knows? That happens sometimes. Rarely, but I do get interference once in a while. So I did see a cowboy hat, and Colorado keeps coming to mind. So I'm wondering if the person involved has ties to Colorado. But anyway. So I do see an empty white table for two. And the table is set up for two people. It's like a round table with flowers in the middle. It kind of presents like a date in a way. But I drew it again. I drew what I saw. Boop. And there's my notes. But anyway, I see a table for two people. So usually when I see something like that, I think, you know, another person was involved. It could have been a date. It could have been like a lunch date between two people, whether they're friends or it's a romantic relationship. Either way, another person. I then see a bigger guy on top of a female. This is where it can get graphic. So if anyone is sensitive to that kind of thing, maybe skip ahead a few seconds. But it looks like he's trying to subdue her. He's white. He's a white person wearing black sweatpants. She's struggling, and I can hear panic in her voice. He's keeping her quiet as possible. He's got light brown hair that's really wavy. He's got her legs locked. I know, this is fucked up. I heard this clear as day. He demolished her. Now, to me, there's only really one way to interpret it. And I'm just going to say it. SA. And that's sad. Now, I also got easy target because of her illness. Heard this came out very audibly. Job alliance. In other words, either one person or multiple people were involved. So multiple people helped, which, listen, like I said, let's say, you know, she was already dead by the time they got her up to the roof. So there would be no way for her to get up in those tanks because they were 10 feet tall to the top. And, you know, they would have to use a ladder because first you have to take the lid off, which is about 20 pounds. And then, yeah, so you would need a ladder. How the hell would she have gotten into that tank? So when I heard Job Alliance, that tells me he had help. So I drew an image, and then I have another image that I put together that's kind of more detailed of the description of the face. Again, I could be wrong, so don't hold me to it. I'm trying to learn how to channel more human spirits than I am, you know, like other entities and beings and guides and deities and whatnot. But so I got an image of a guy that I read earlier, and I'll show you a better description using an app that allows you to put a portrait together, and I'll show you that on one of these sides here. But yeah, long face, light brown hair, soulless eyes, pale skin. Now, more imagery here. Red, fat flower that looked like peony, like a peony flower. That could represent, well, it was red. Oh, China. She was Chinese. Yeah, her family was from China. So the peony is a symbol of wealth and prosperity. So historically, they were grown and enjoyed by Chinese emperors and other important people. Oh, I wonder if the people or person involved were wealthy, and that's why the case was covered up. Interesting. I'm going to take away the China part, though, and I want to see what else it represents. So it's very similar. It also represents love, honor, happiness, wealth, romance, and beauty. Okay, so I talked about the table for two people and the catfish thing and how this could be a romantic thing. And I saw oh my god, I saw the flowers on the table, like the vase. So, if we're going to interpret it, this could either be the person was wealthy, right? Because of the symbolism of what it means in China. Or the person was wealthy and was able to cover it up, or both. You know, there could be multiple things here. I saw a sword pointed down. To me, when a sword or anything with the blade is I don't want to use this. I don't want to get banned on fucking YouTube, but stabbing motion, maybe, or just could mean kill. But the thing is, there were no stab wounds found on the autopsy. The autopsy would have found that for sure. But so, the other thing could just mean that they were murdered. Heard the word ice, which is strange. Now, could it be an abbreviation? Could it be, actual ice? You know what I mean? Maybe. And then I heard bodies. Then I heard follow it. And then I saw a chocolate cheesecake, which is random, I know. I heard trio. So that could mean that there were 3 people involved. Okay, this was weird. And I heard brakes of a car. And then I heard stop. So that was 2:09 p.m. that I heard that. And Spirit, and I was like, do you want me to stop? And they were like, yes. And the thing is, sometimes when it comes to cases like this, they will only give you a certain amount of information because it could mean either the spirit or the person involved has not been fully healed. 2, the information is kind of like they don't want the public to know a certain amount of information. 2, so it could mean a whole bunch of things, but Spirit was adamant on me stopping. So that's what I did. I stopped there. So this is what I'm gonna say to sum up everything. Based off my channeling, and now I'm going to use my criminology brain now. So I had to put that aside for this channeling because, again, I don't want it to sway me in any direction. The death, in my opinion, is inconclusive due to the fact that the autopsy couldn't be performed to its entirety. They had to stop because of the state in which the body was in. Okay? So, to me, there's so much left unsaid. I do believe that there were multiple people involved. I heard trio, I'm thinking 3. It could be 2 people in her. It could be 3 people in her. I just know 3. 3 people were involved. I feel like, the roommates. She had roommates she was staying with at the hotel. Like, they had gotten her a room with multiple people, and they made her get another room because she was acting strangely. Which I feel like she was acting strangely due to her mental illness. Again, I suspect that perhaps her, the way she was taking her medication wasn't the best. And so that's probably why her erratic behavior, plus if you add in spirit activity, anyone, like I said, with any kind of mental illness, any kind of ailment, and this isn't all the time, but it's more likely things can negatively affect a person in that kind of state. So it could have made her mental illness worse. I'm not saying it was the direct cause of what was going on. I just suspect that it didn't help, is all. They pointed out to blood. So yeah, there was something going on with the blood. And they didn't find any blood, allegedly, at the hotel. And, the coroner or the autopsy, couldn't be fully done because of the blood situation. Because of how it got all tainted from the water. Cover-up, I fully believe it was either a cover-up, or by cover-up, it could also mean that they got away with what happened, which they ruled it as an accident. So yeah, they got away with it. I feel like there were multiple victims, but at the same time, like I said, multiple victims in that hotel. It's strange, though, that the cameras didn't pick anything up other than her in the elevator. Now, how did she get to the roof into that tank without any of the cameras picking her up? Which tells me, how would a Canadian student coming to the United States and being in the Cecil Hotel for the first time, know where all those cameras were? No freaking way. No way would she know where those cameras are. No way. The only thing we can say is perhaps, she went out the window up the fire escape. Now, police did have, dogs try to pick up her scent, and it led them to a window. And there was a fire escape there. So she could have absolutely gone up those fire escape stairs or whatever they have over there. But, the hotel staff said, well, the fire escape has alarms on it, they would have gone off. Which is why I'm thinking, either it's an old-ass hotel, so either it don't work, B, maybe somebody turned them off. Now, wouldn't it be very handy if you worked at the Cecil Hotel and had access to do that? And I also want to throw in the fact that those water tanks are 10 feet tall to the top. You would need a ladder. Well, how are you going to get a ladder up there? You would need to go up and have permission with maintenance and the hotel to have that shit go up there. Plus, the roof was locked, right? So, I don't know if you can carry a ladder up a fire escape successfully. Maybe. I don't know what the fire escape looks like over there. But, if it was an inside job, they would have access to the roof and be able to unlock those doors to bring the ladder through. Something to think about. Spirit didn't specifically draw any, attention to that part. So, everything right now is speculation. Well, this whole video is speculation, if we're being honest. But that's why it's just was it an inside job? Now, Skid Row is kind of where it's located, the hotel itself. And there were reports, I think there's up to 16 deaths in or around that hotel. It draws in a lot of negative shit. And it doesn't surprise me. And I wouldn't be surprised if we have more deaths along, in the future. Just because, when you have traumatic events happen, that residual energy tends to stick around. And that's going to create a clusterfuck of shit. And you can even get thought forms out of that. You can draw malevolent entities out of there. So, there's a lot of stuff going on. But I wanted to state that as well. That's why I suspect there's some shit going on. Also, when I was doing some digging afterwards, I wanted to look at human trafficking, because when the person I was talking to about this, because they wanted me to do this video, they're like, what are your first, what do you think? Without any, channeling and whatnot. And I was like, sexual or sex trafficking or something like that. And I then looked and I saw that, Skid Row's not a great place to be, but also, there has been a slight history of, human trafficking. So it's possible that, anything can happen. But, I was reading, and I don't know how truthful it is, but I'm going to point it out. they were doing TB tests, allegedly, and the name of the test was Lam Elisa, which is an abbreviation for the type of test, which is weird because that's her name backwards. But I think that's, I don't want to say it's a coincidence. I'm just going to say that's fucking weird. That's weird. But yeah, anyway. So that's why I feel like this is a cover-up. So either that evidence was thrown away, the hotel could have done it, or somebody knew where those cameras were and were able to maneuver around that hotel without being picked up by the cameras. So let's say she really did go up the fire escape. How come there aren't any other videos of her in the hotel? If she went to the fire escape, you can't tell me from the elevator to that window there are no cameras. If there's no cameras, that's fucking weird. And, you know, it's possible it's an old hotel, but it would be interesting to know where all the cameras are in the hotel, if it's just in the elevators in the lobby, or if it's, you know, periodically throughout the whole hotel. I don't know. If they have them throughout the hotel, like I said, how would she get from the elevator to that window without being seen? How is the elevator footage the only footage of her? And not to mention, what about the roommates? Or I should say, she was sharing a room with other people. Wouldn't there be video of them as well in that hotel? We have some puzzle pieces missing here, y'all. I want to know what you guys think about this, because I have more questions. So that's something to think about. I feel like, yeah, the roommates involved, or I shouldn't say involved, but the people that were in the hotel room with her, to me, are suspects, but there's no link that can be traced back to them due to the lack of evidence. So you can't say, oh, this person is a suspect or whatever, because there is no direct evidence stating that, which is why it's so strange. Now, I don't remember in school, because I did take forensics classes and stuff, when someone is assaulted, SA'd, how fast after death would that appear? I would assume it would show up on the reports of the autopsy. However, I don't know the implication of the water, because if her body was found a month later, I think, how much of that would wash away that evidence? So I don't know. That's why I'm just like, I would assume that it would be able to pick up certain things like that. But again, I don't know. And as far as the person's face, now again, I'm not saying that they did it, that they did anything, but Spirit showed me that image for a reason. So it could mean they could be a suspect, they could be a witness, they could have just been around at the time it happened. Because it's important to state that when you do cases like this, especially a psychic medium, and you don't have evidence, you cannot straight out say, oh, this person's guilty, they did it. You can't do that. There's no evidence, and if you're wrong and that person is wrongly convicted or wrongly accused, that could be detrimental to their life. They could lose jobs, they could lose finance opportunities. So you cannot straight out and be like, oh, he did it, or he's a suspect, when we don't really know. That's really important to state when doing cold cases and things. So I definitely think this was a cover-up in some way, shape, or form. I feel like she was murdered. I feel like there were multiple murders in this hotel, which I'm pretty sure they have said, but different times, of course. And if it was an inside job, that would explain the cameras. But so I'm not going to keep reading over my thoughts because I'm pretty much stating the same thing over and over again and nobody wants to listen to that. So, guys, what do you think? Do you think she was murdered? Do you think it was an accident? Do you think it was paranormal? Do you think it was all of the above? Do you think it was straight up just her mental illness? Like, how do you explain the water tank being lifted when it's like 300 pounds of metal? Like, what do you guys think? Let me know down below. I'm curious. So, hopefully, you know, maybe this video got you to think a little bit about this. And, yeah. So, thank you guys for watching. Hope to see y'all soon. Peace out.